जम्मू कश्मीर के पहलगाम में आतंकियों ने मासूम देशवासियों को जिस बेरहमी से मारा है.
It was an attack on soul of India, and of course, the response by India was very measured.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our audience all around the world. This is Sid, your host for Sit Down with Sid podcast, here yet with another episode. On today's show, our guest is a seasoned journalist, a biotech specialist, and an author with almost 2 decades of experience in media, scientific research, and marketing. Known for fusing rigorous science with gripping storytelling, sharp political debate, and literary insight, he's also the author of the acclaimed 2020 novel Shreds of Frozen Destiny. Without further ado, let's welcome Rahul Koul. Hey, Rahul, thank you so much for being a guest on our show.
Thank you, Sid. Always a pleasure and good to be back on this show. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, so let's get into, I want to talk about the Pahalgam attack. So on April 22nd, 2025, uh, 26 tourists were executed in Baisaran Meadow, which is a valley in Jammu and Kashmir. What hit you the hardest as someone who knows that valley intimately and as a Kashmiri Pandit who grew up in exile?
For being a Kashmiri Pandit and Aboriginal native of Kashmir, this attack was not something which was, new for us. Even in 1990s, when the terrorism, began in Kashmir, situation was not different. But this time around, it happened after a long gap, perhaps, and this led to, I mean, shockwaves across the country as well as globally. But as you are asking this particular question about, that because I being from the same place, how do I feel about it? So I would say that it displays that this particular issue is not going to be kept in a cold storage unless this is not resolved. It will somehow come back again and again. Maybe after 1 decade, maybe after 2 decades, or maybe even after centuries. This is not going to settle down unless and until we have a clarity on what we are tackling, because this is terrorism, and let me even put a context there. It's a Islamic terrorism, which has been there now since last almost 4 decades. uh, and particularly in the context of Pahalgam attack, what happened was, these I mean radicalized elements, they had decided that they are going to rake up this issue again, because there has been comparatively some calm in last 1 decade, because of the government, tackling these elements very aggressively, and due to which there has been a relatively, calmer environment wherein new businesses have thrived, and Valley has been back to the business. But what has happened, that this can't be digested by the radicalized elements, or those who are backing them across the border, and this led to this attack. That is what I think in my personal capacity. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to actually share a video of it, and once again, the video can be disturbing. So discretion is as advised for our listeners. And Rahul, I have 3 clips that I want to share. I'm going to share one by one and take your feedback. Okay. So I'm going to share the first one with you here, and then okay, okay. So I'm going to play this. Okay. So this is the moment of the.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر ذاته خير لمبا جرو
So, Rahul, this is what I want to ask you now. Uh, you saw this, and how is this even possible? This person is unaware. Uh, you can hear the gunshots while he's getting ready to go on this, and the person behind him is saying Allahu Akbar, which is a term used by the Muslim community a lot. Um, and he's unaware, and he actually also looked below on the ground. As you can see, he looked back and he saw. You can hear the gunshots continuously, and video went viral for a reason. Like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. Does the common sense not prevail here with this guy?
Uh, because I was not there on the ground, I cannot say, what was the exact context here. But we all have seen this video wherein, the tourist is getting ready for the for taking that ride, and the person who's responsible for ensuring that he smoothly gets there. He's pushing him, and he's simultaneously I mean chanting. This particular thing also, and so either he might have not known that this attack is going to happen, or he might have been aware. There are two sort of narratives which have been floating around. But investigations have revealed that that person was innocent. He had nothing to do with that particular attack. If the news reports have to be believed, he's no longer accused in that particular incident. That is what I have heard about.
I mean, this is gut-wrenching to watch. I mean, people are there on vacation, and these three terrorists, uh, and I also found out that two of them actually, one was from Pakistan, and two of them were the local Kashmiris from that valley. Why would
Yeah,
why
that's
would
correct.
you
That's
and why? So my question to you is, Rahul, why would you do harm to your own community? Like like two plus two equals to four does not make sense here, you know? So would you like to shed some light on this, like explain us? Because I still cannot understand why. I'm still trying to
see.
find the answers for why.
Sure, sure. See, in that particular case, what happened was the attack was all of a sudden, and of course, the planning behind it might have taken a lot of time, maybe months or years altogether. We don't know, because we are laymen, we don't have that expertise in defense, or such affairs. But as laymen, I would say that certainly there would have been, a lot of planning behind this particular attack, and when this attack happened, we have also seen that locals who have rushed to the help, and they have taken these tourists out of the danger, and local poniwalas have helped these terrorists to get to the safety. That is also one aspect which we cannot ignore, that uh, and second is that there were locals also involved, which helped these terrorists to get there and ensure that they remain there. I mean, not caught by the public eye for days altogether, and they ensure that this happens. So there are two set of people which we can see there. One is who who are not bothered about exactly by this ideology, and they do not want to go into sucked by the violence. They want to go about their business, and they want to just live their lives, as the ordinary citizens. But then there are highly radicalized elements
Hmm.
who are particularly using violence. And second is second set of this group is also overground workers, OWGs we call them,
Hmm.
who are like not carrying the gun, but they are helping these people, to carry out their nefarious activities, without being caught for days altogether. But I will not like to label an entire population again, because that will not be, not so great service to the entire, population there, because we cannot say that, the entire population is sort of, believing in such an ideology. If that would have been the case, perhaps it would have been the lost case for the entire country. That's not possible. And I believe that we cannot we will have to, although it's a very thin line, because whenever the defense forces have to act, they also are in a dilemma that how should they crush these forces, because there's a lot of there are lot many other people who will get also caught, who are innocent but they get caught into it, and they have to ensure that so that innocents are not harmed, and such terrorists are crushed on time. So if we particularly focus on this kind of video, I would certainly say that radicalized elements like those terrorists, they do not care about the common lives. They are not interested in whether their own people will get affected by such acts. Their businesses will get lost. Their livelihoods, their children are going to suffer. Which eventually happened. Tourism really, it has been suffering. I mean, the entire period. I was there in Kashmir after that attack, and what I saw was, I mean, the airports were empty. The shops were empty, roads were empty. There were no tourists there for almost that entire season. But
Wow.
all the livelihood which got lost, I mean, who did it? It was those radicalized elements. They do not understand. They are not interested in particularly in these aspects. They are not. They do not care for women, children, or anybody else. So I would say, it's a, and going by it, I'll also expand it further into saying that it's a global issue now. It's no longer limited to even the valley. We are seeing similar kinds of incidents everywhere happening, and those elements are not caring about what is going to happen to the entire community. They do not care whether they will get labeled or they will be, in the harm's way.
Mhm.
So that has been the case there also.
I want to share this clip for 30 seconds with you and the audience. Just let me know if you can hear it, okay?
आपने आप बोले ना
Can
मुझे
you
पर थी क्या बोलते भेलपुरी खाने के लिए
hear
हाँ
it?
अपनी साइड में था ठीक है एक इंसान आया
Yes,
उसने
yes, I can.
बात दी यहाँ पे उसने बोला कि ये शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है उसने उसको गोली मार दी प्लीज आस्क फॉर हेल्प वी डोंट नीड ओके डोंट वरी मेरे पति का बच्चा लो हम बचा देगा कोई बात नहीं बेहतर प्लीज भगवान मेरे पति का बच्चा लो हम बचा देगा कोई बात नहीं
Okay, now I want to ask you this thing. So the gunman separated the Hindu tourists before firing. From everything you have seen in this valley over the last 4 decades, does this feel like a tragic throwback to you or a dangerous new beginning of something else?
I think, again, I will say, for me, of course, it's very, heart-wrenching to see such a scene. When I saw it for the first time, I was almost in tears. But for us and our entire community, it's not a new thing. Perhaps these days there's a social media, or there are televisions everywhere. People can see it and feel it. But for us, I don't think it's a new thing, because we have experienced it long back. We have seen, the fury of such incidents. I mean, even starting from 1985 to 1990 and beyond, for decades altogether, such massacres happening. But perhaps the media did not give it that kind of attention those days, and it was not covered so much globally, because it was treated as a localized issue, and there was no social media there. But such things we have seen, and if you do some research, you will find a lot of massacres which have happened wherein local Hindu community has been separated and
Hmm.
then killed in cold blood, and there has been no outrage. I mean, selective outrages happened there at that point in time, but nobody, even if you speak to somebody today, and in the mainstream country, in India, and even in Asia, or even globally also, if you tell them, I mean, when did Vandhama massacre happen? Nobody will knew. And you will similarly, there was a massacre which happened in Doda. Nobody is going to talk about it, and even they might have not even heard about it. And even in 1990s, there was selective targeting of prominent community figures, like Mr. Pandit Premnath, who was a leading advocate, and then there was, director of the All India uh, radio who was targeted selectively. And there were so many of prominent, Mr. Tikalal Taplu, who was associated with the BJP, and a lot many other prominent, figures were killed in cold blood, and and rest of the India had no clue at all because there was no social media at that point in time. But with this particular incident, of course, we are living in 21st century, and there is, everybody has a mobile phone, everybody can see it. So that is the reason there has been widespread condemnation. But for us as a community, this is not a new thing, particularly in the valley. We have seen a lot of such massacres already and long back.
Uh, uh, Thanks, Rahul. I want to share one last clip on this before we move on to another topic. So this is the Prime Minister. I want to talk about Prime Minister Modi, who is very well respected in the West, where we are. And this is the speech he gave. He made strong remarks against this attack. I'm going to play this for a minute and ask you a question.
जम्मू कश्मीर के पहलगाम में आतंकियों ने मासूम देशवासियों को जिस बेरहमी से मारा है, उससे पूरा देश व्यथित है। कोटि कोटि देशवासी दुखी हैं। सभी पीड़ित परिवारों के इस दुख में पूरा देश उनके साथ खड़ा है। जिन परिवारजनों का अभी इलाज चल रहा है, वे जल्द स्वस्थ हो, इसके लिए भी सरकार हर प्रयास कर रही है। हमला सिर्फ निहत्थे पर्यटकों पर नहीं हुआ है। देश के दुश्मनों ने भारत की आत्मा पर हमला करने का दुस्साहस किया है। मैं बहुत स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहना चाहता हूं, जिन्होंने ये हमला किया है, उन आतंकियों को और इस हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी।
Okay, so one of the most powerful things I took from this was he said this was not an attack on unarmed tourists; it was an attack on the soul of India. I want to talk about your views. How do you think Prime Minister Modi has handled this situation? And of course, being in the West, I can give my own opinion, but you live in that nation. So tell me about the role Prime Minister Modi has played in de-escalating this situation, which is a very highly controversial, political, and sensitive issue between two countries.
Correct, correct. And I agree that, what Prime Minister said and what you also mentioned, that it was an attack on soul of India. And of course, the response by India was very measured. India did not rush to, do anything which the world would have said that, was unresponsible, and irresponsible, sorry. So what India did was, it was a, measured, it was precise, and it was, non-escalatory in nature. India waited for Pakistan's reaction. Of course, Pakistan denied, but at the basic research, it was very clear that these were radicalized elements, were well trained, and they where they came from. And once the agencies are very clear about it, then only India came up with a proper response, which was very measured. India did not attack any other, any civilian, any innocent women, children. They particularly focused on the targeted areas which from where these radical elements had come from. And it was decided that enough is enough, and we need to provide a very strong response to such elements. I would rather call it, assertive, deterrence, which
Hmm.
is where we have showed, an aggressive approach, but also in a very measured way, wherein assertion is there, but we are not also, showing that we are going to destroy you as a country. What we are saying is that we are warning you that we are just targeting those people who you are cultivating, who you are feeding to destroy us. But in return, we are not going to say that we are there as they say that we will destroy you. We are not saying we will also destroy you. We are again giving you a warning that please come to your senses. Do not do this, and do not reach to a level where we also say that we destroy you. So what Prime Minister Modi did was, he really gave a response to the Pakistan, but it was not, the kind of response which even Pakistanis would have ever thought about, because it was very measured and it was very sudden. Of course, we call it as Operation Sindoor, which was to assure the women who lost their husbands in that attack. There in India, there is this sindoor, vermilion, which is worn by the married ladies in Hindu community, and most of the tourists who died there were from the Hindu community, and so based on that, it was mentioned as Operation Sindoor, so that we are giving the kind of response to those elements which they deserve. So I think overall, it was a well deserved response by India, of course helped by Prime Minister Modi and his team, and entire country was very much united in providing, giving that very harsh response to Pakistan.
So, thanks for bringing Operation Sindoor, which was our next point. So, it was hailed as one of the turning points against cross-border terrorism, but then they agreed to a ceasefire 5 days later. Having reported on this conflict, been a part of this, lived it, do you see this as a successful deterrence, a political theater put together, or something in between as a citizen?
As a citizen, I would say, I mean, that we all were aghast at this attack, and we definitely wanted a very strong response to be, given by the Indian government. And when this happened, as I mentioned, in my previous, answer, what happened at that point in time, we were all satisfied during those, I think, 4 days of
Mhm.
that conflict, and because it was just 4 days, I think, from I don't remember the exact date right now, but it was just around 4 days, and then ceasefire was announced. And when the ceasefire was announced, I think entire country, including me also, we were sort of, we were surprised that how did it happen and why did it happen. But eventually, I would say, and there were also some theories that somebody intervened, like Mr. Trump. He intervened in between, and he ensured that it happened. There were a lot of narratives which were floating, and nobody knew what exactly happened. But eventually, when I sat down, and analyzed what
Mhm.
exactly happened, I just realized that that was the best thing to be done at that point in time, rather than escalating it further. Would have not been good for the country as well as for the entire subcontinent, because both of the countries are nuclearly, we both
The
are
nuclear
nuclear armed
capabilities.
countries,
Hmm.
and it has to be, because India is a responsible country. India would not be, no, nobody in India would like to match the kind of madness which somebody in our neighborhood would want to. We would always want to be, a responsible nation, and India displayed that. And in that ceasefire, I would say it reflected the same. You know, what was the purpose? The purpose was to teach the radical elements a lesson in terms of what they had done, and the kind of response they received. It sent it must have sent shivers down their spine, and which was also visible that they shifted their locations, and to somewhere, as was reported in the media also. And so overall, I would say that it was a very good move by the Indian government,
Hmm.
that it was a measured attack, and then we said, okay, you got your lesson, and now you really take it as a lesson and don't do such kind of harakari, in the near future. And then we stopped at that. So I think, as a responsible nation, any responsible nation for that matter would not want to escalate and to engulf the entire world into it. So I think it was a good response, and we had to stop at that point in time.
Great. I want to talk about moving on to another topic, trauma, especially the generational trauma and its echoes. Uh, Something like this, has you initially also mentioned, has been going on for over 4 decades, since 1985. Uh, what kind of invisible, measurable damage might these survivors or the victim families be carrying for decades? And do you think they can overcome this at any point in their life, even their coming next generation?
Uh, See, it takes, I mean, so many years to build a house, or even decades to build a house, and come out of the poverty, or maybe some people have their ancestral house or wealth, or but there are a lot many in different communities who take decades to move into a phase where they are able to build a house, or they are able to build some livelihood, and all of a sudden everything gets lost because something happens, some kind of terrorism happens, and they have to they have to migrate, go to some other place where the language is different, the culture is different, the weather is different, and so it's not just, I would say, that it is losing your house or losing your land. It is something that which causes a generational trauma, and that trauma then will shift to generation after generation, and will affect very badly, and I would say that particularly in the context of, if you're asking me, in the context of Kashmir Valley,
Yes.
being the aboriginal inhabitants of that place, it was a similar case for us, wherein we had to move all of a sudden. We had never thought about it, and when we moved out, and we did not take anything at all. We just arrived, and all we had was our education, and all we had was our intellect. And on that basis, we survived. We built our lives again, and still we are surviving. And I mean, we have a hope that someday we are going to return back, but will it happen? We do not know. I mean, the government has been reluctant to provide us that assurance that it is going to happen someday, but it hasn't happened. So I would say, particularly from my perspective, that the displacement because of the cross-border terrorism has
Hmm.
resulted in, I mean, a chain of events which has resulted in generational trauma, loss of livelihood, I mean, pushing a lot of I mean, a section of the society into poverty, loss of dignity also in some cases. And also, I would say, our one of our generations has just perished in this conflict. They could never go back. They died in the hope that someday they are going to sit on the banks of Jhelum River, and or go back to worship in the Shankaracharya temple, but they were never able to go back, and they died in the heat of Jammu, Delhi, or somewhere else, and even some people even moved abroad also, and so it's all scattered, community, I would say, and still hoping that someday they are going to go back to the native place. I often call them, including myself also, the nowhere people, rootless nowhere people who
Right.
have perhaps who have got multiple addresses, but there is no, even if you have, I would not deny that we have built some houses somewhere at different locations, or have bought some assets, but that does not in any way absolve the people who caused this distress and this displacement. And if I move beyond my example, there are displaced communities across the globe who suffer the same trauma. There's a generational trauma, and there is also it will take decades for them to I mean come out of it and go back to their original level. That is not possible, at least in 1 or 2 decades. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Rahul, one last question on this. Now, you were exiled, during the Kashmiri Pandit situation that happened in the Valley of J&K. Do you carry any feeling of revenge or animosity to the so-called perpetrators? I know you don't blame the whole community, as you mentioned initially, it's the radicalization part. Like, are you still living with it? Are you over it? And do you get that flashback and then like seek revenge or I can do something? Um, Sorry, I know this is very personal, but this is the last question I wanted to ask you on this specific topic.
Yeah, this sort of a question I have, I have been asked repeatedly this question by a lot many of colleagues. Professionally, personally, uh, and there are also some people are very aghast that you did not take up the guns, you did
Yeah,
not do the violence, and there are even taunts also. Even now, some sections of society would say that you just fled. You should
yeah,
have fought back.
right.
So today I'm going to answer that question. The first part is that whether you wanted a revenge. Kashmiri Pandit is a community. As a community, we have been more into education and intellectualism. Violence has never been our forte per se, and you know even if we were displaced from the land, we never ever thought of taking up guns, although I cannot confirm, but yes, there were speculative reports that at that point in time there were lot many groups who were ready to back Kashmiri Pandits if they would have taken up guns,
Mhm.
but Kashmiri Pandits never took up guns because it was not in their nature to do such gory violence or bloodshed. So even that, that continues even now. We do not seek any revenge. We are very hopeful that there will be someday when we will go back to our native, roots, and we will thrive there. And coming to the, second part, wherein, lot many people have been saying that, you just left, or you just, you just fled from that place and did not fight back. So my answer to them is that is it possible for 2% of the population to fight back? It is not
Mhm.
possible anywhere. It is, and fight back with what? With stones, or with there's an AK-47 or there's a carbine in front of you in 1990s, and you just have some stones, or with and stakes. You cannot fight back, and that also, that community is scattered. They are not at single place. There are three houses at one place, and there are another two houses at somewhere else, and you cannot unitedly, even know that that one person has left someday and other person is going to leave other day. uh, Nobody knew that. and it was not at all possible to do that. I mean, at globally also, when you live as minority, I mean, the minutest minority, minuscule level, 2% or 1% cannot fight back if the majority decides that you are no longer needed in that place. You have to just, go away from that place or die, convert or die. If that was the slogan, what will you do?
Hmm.
Obviously, you will just flee or save your life. And
Right.
that is what the community did that point in time. And we don't feel any remorse for that. What we did was that we thrived. And we, instead of taking up weapons, decided that education is our weapon.
Hmm.
Education has to be our weapon,
That's
which
a great
will
answer.
carry us forward. Yeah, no revenge at all. We do not. I mean, the karma is the king. Karma will decide the revenge for us.
That's so very well said. I love that one. Uh, Next topic. I know you've been mentioning for a while that science needs storytellers. So, in a biotech landscape, which is often driven round in data, why do you believe scientists must become storytellers? And if that's possible, then how do you see those two working together cohesively?
I would say that particularly, I mean, science is something which has mostly been limited to the labs. Science is something which is only often related to the scientists who do something in the lab, and then that's it. If you ask anybody on the street that what do scientists do, or what is science, the person might not be able to tell you something in tits and bits, that this and that. uh, so the reason for that is because we have not been able to discuss the science like we do in case of politics, social sciences, or any other subject. Science is not very often discussed. Maybe because there's a lack of communicators who can bring forth such issues and topics to the public domain,
Hmm.
act as bridges between the experts and the common public, because those bridges are missing. You don't see much of connect there. There are experts and scientists, and there are lot many domain experts also, but they are not connected to each other. And
Hmm.
then there is a third pillar there, which is the communicator, which will connect you to the fourth pillar, that is the common public. So all these are not connected to each other. What has happened is that it has remained in that way only since the time, I mean, science has come into the picture. But now, with the advent of social media, what I'm seeing is that particularly, I'll give you an example of COVID. In the COVID times, I was so surprised that the common people knew the names of the vaccines, that Covaxin, Covishield, and Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech became the household names, and nobody knew them before that. Nobody knew that there could be something called a vaccine manufactured in India, and there were certain companies who were manufacturing it and exporting globally. Nobody knew about it, and all of a sudden COVID happens, everybody comes to know it, and everybody becomes an expert. And that
Right.
is all because there was a lot of communication around that time, through social media, through news portals, through of course broadcast media, and common public. Even if you these days you ask any children, children in even studying in fourth, fifth, up to 10th or beyond, I mean, they will clearly tell you that this is a vaccine, and this is used for immunization, against viruses, against diseases. So that kind of awareness was not visible that before that. So COVID is an example. So similarly, there are a lot many other examples also. Because of the paucity of time, I would rather focus on the this particular topic only. And science communication is something which we really need to encourage. And I often, whenever I meet top scientific leaders in the country, and from the globe also, I always encourage them to speak and communicate more, so that that science which they are doing in the lab also gets into the public domain, and people know that how important it is. It the only the politics, entertainment, science, gossips. This only is not important. Uh, I mean, science is also an aspect which needs to be promoted and should be discussed. As a communicators,
Hmm.
as journalists who cover this particular area, I would say that let us encourage people to speak more about, discuss more about the scientific topics, discuss in a very layman language. You don't have to necessarily I understand that science is very complex and there are terminologies which people might not understand, but also we it's not impossible to make people understand if we fragment it in a language which people understand. So that is where the role of science communicators come, and we should also encourage children to be science communicators, and to create a profession out of it. And I hope to see that there will be lot many of us in the coming decades and centuries.
Great answer. Uh, Last topic. I know you have been writing a book, which is expected to come on the shelves and online February of this year, 2026. Uh, I also want to share this with our audience. Let me share this as well. So this is your first book, Shreds of Frozen Destiny, which I mentioned in the intro as well. It is available on Amazon India. And Rahul, if that's okay with you, can we share this link in the description so if people want to purchase this book, they can go to the
Absolutely,
link.
that's a big favor. Thank you so much.
No, no, of course, absolutely. So I actually just noticed the cover. It's actually a person holding uh, what is this? It's like holding a picture of a town. Do you want to give like very quick let our audience know what this book is about so they can go and purchase
Sure,
and help contribute to
sure.
the cause?
Sure, it's a fictional book, which takes you through a journey of a person named Rocky, who I would say is a figure which is unheard of in the public space. This person, his entire life has been fragmented into different sort of genres altogether. I mean, starting from his childhood where he undergoes a lot of trauma, then he becomes a very nice guy, and then eventually he turns to crime because there are certain incidents which happen in his life, and then again he becomes a very good person again, realizing that the life is cannot thrive on crime. So it's a 360 degree of view of a person who does not believe in crime but gets sucked into it and then comes back and survives, all because he realized that goodness is something which we cannot I mean leave, and you have to remain a good person after all. That is how you can do good to yourself and to the people. So that is the book all about, a bit philosophical, all elements in it, and I hope audience are going to enjoy it.
Perfect. I know you've been writing this. Correct me. I think the second book that's coming that you're writing is a biography on a person without disclosing any name, which we understand. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about what the book is all about so the hype is being built here?
Sure, sure. First of all, let me tell you about the Shreds of the Frozen Destiny.
Sure.
Particularly, was published in 2020. It's almost a 5-year-old book.
Hmm.
There was a very good response, and it continues so. And after 5 years, this is the second book which I'm working on. And the first book was fictional, of course, and the second one is biographical in nature. I am, I'm tracking the journey of one of the India's, distinguished biopharma scientist leader.
Mm-hmm.
who has been at the global level also has contributed immensely to the research and has also co-developed a vital drug for a dreaded disease, which I cannot name unfortunately at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm very proud to be working on this book, which is almost near culmination, and we are hopeful of its release in early 2026. By grace of Almighty God, it will be. I think on shelves by May 2026 or earlier.
And then where will people be able to buy that? Will it be on Amazon and then any other distribution channels or directly from you?
It will be available on all the major commercial platforms such as Amazon.com, Amazon.in,
Mm-hmm.
Flipkart, and also I mean at bookstores in Europe, in US, and in India, select bookstores, which of course we will reveal at the point of
So it's a massive
that
launch.
time when it.
Okay. All right. Uh, Final question. So after yet another cycle of the attack, retaliation, and the ceasefire, are we condemned to repeat the biology of trauma forever? Or do you think can better stories backed by better science finally break this loop? Do you see hope or do you see a pattern of habit?
I will. I'm a very hopeful person, so I would always say that there's a hope, and there is going to be hope till the world is there, and till the time there's goodness in world. Of course, world is divided into two categories of people, wherein people who see good and people who don't see good. They will criticize, gossip. They will do all sort of things to neither they will not do good themselves or will not allow others to do good. That is one set of people. Second set of people is who will always do good quietly or loudly or I do not know, maybe in different forms. They will always do good. So I belong to that kind of a group, and I would always say that I'm hopeful of things resolving. Maybe in our lifetime, may not be, in our lifetime, but things are going to resolve eventually, and there will be a lot of goodness which will prevail, and because this world is prevailing because of that goodness, and it will continue to do so. So I would say that hope is bigger than any kind of conflict, any kind of trauma, or any kind of any kind of worse things which have happened across the world. Because there's a hope, the this world is going to survive.
Wow. Rahul, this was once again highly intellectual, a great conversation we had. And it was so nice to connect with you after a gap of 2, 3 years. And I want to thank you so much for your time and being a guest on our show. And if there is anything you would like to say to our audience, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Sid. I would say I always enjoyed the conversation with you, and it was good to be back on the show for the second time. And I am hopeful that for the third time also I'll get lucky to be on this show discussing my next book very soon. And for the audience, I would say that I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and that please continue to do good, and please be hopeful. Please be optimistic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul, so much for your time. We wish you all the best and would love to have you again once the new book is out. Thank you.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye
Pleasure.
bye.
Thank you.